the Japanese have so many great expressions. And I just said something to a guy the other day in the street, some guy just walking by him, and I'm like, dude, you okay? He's like, yeah. We started talking, and and I knew he was banged up, and I just started talking to that guy. And I remember saying to him, I go, there's an expression Japanese have. I said, life in every breath, right? And he looked at me like he had an epiphany. He just looked different. He goes, I'm never going to forget that, life in every breath. I said, so think about wasting any breath. It's God given. Every breath is a blessing.
Connect with us on the Emotion Wellness Podcast for a transformative journey of human connection. Witness personal stories, improve your mental health education, and acquire valuable resources for optimizing your well-being. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.
Welcome to the Emotion Wellness Podcast. I'm Jason Turner, and as usual, I'm here with my boy, Mr. Frank Creevy.
Here we are today with a special guest all the way from New Jersey, my Italian brother, a mentor of mine. I feel like we've become very close in a very short amount of time. James Amarosi, my brother, the founder and managing partner of Legacy Fund. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Jace, thanks.
Yeah. So let's start off. Like, what brings you to San Antonio?
I came down for I just got inducted into the United States Black Belt Hall of Fame. So this Saturday is the event, the actual venue. But there's a whole business development thing there for the martial arts, and I have all kinds of programs for that too. That stuff I've been doing martial arts 55 years. I've had schools, a martial arts organization for the last 35. So we'll do some business development, brought my team down, and we'll rock and roll, have a good time down in San Antonio.
I love that.
This is where the Hall of Fame is?
This is where they hold it.
Okay.
Where it is, I think I don't know exactly if it's in Texas or not, but my dear friend who's the president of it, I just became friends with him. I met him through another event like we did. I met him through an event. We started talking. Dr. John Terry is an awesome guy, but he's from Arkansas, and he holds it down here. I don't know the particulars, but I'll have to inquire because I'd like to know where it is.
Is there like a jacket or what is it like?
What do you
picturing
get?
when they do.
Yeah, what do you get?
No. This is like you get. It's like when you get inducted into this thing. It's a very prestigious thing. They give you a plaque, a ring, like a Super Bowl ring type of thing.
That's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You get more importantly, you get acknowledged by your peers. I've been doing this stuff 55 years. I fought professionally, lived in Japan, lived all over the world, and I've submerged myself. It's different than what you guys do, but the spirit to serve and help is all the same.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So this is, through my martial arts, I help people. I have things we're promoting. I have a thing called SNAP, a program called SNAP, Special Needs Adaptive Program. It started out for kids with autism. Now it's all-encompassing. Anybody with neurodiverse, neurological disorders, injuries, CP. We teach all over at really, really incredibly. We're very blessed, very prestigious places. We teach in their facilities. In my dojos, I have a program for that as well. And then we have another thing called Sensational. It's a pre-K program. It's our biggest. It's crazy. We teach little kids martial arts.
Very cool.
Yeah, we got a lot going on. So it's pretty wild. And that's what we're gonna we're coming down to promote that in addition. But this thing is to be acknowledged by your peers. There'll be quite a few people getting inducted as well. They do this once a year. So we'll go, I'll go in the annals with the likes of some other great martial artists in the past, like Jim Kelly, Bill Superfoot Wallace, Chuck Norris, those guys. So
Amazing.
It's an amazing accomplishment.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm really.
So take us back. Like, why? Like, where did you grow up? What was that like?
So I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, which is very similar to Brooklyn, as you would know. or growing up where you did, Little Italy. It's similar to that. Very, very ethnic. You know, I grew up in a really Italian neighborhood, but you know, there was an Irish neighborhood, a black neighborhood, Spanish neighborhood, Polish, Portuguese, and I grew up there at a young age. I was in mid-60s. It was a lot of racial tension. It was pretty wild. I grew up around a very crazy element, wise guys. I grew up around a lot of that. My uncle was one.
If people don't know what that is, that's the mob.
Yeah, he was both. He was a cop. He was internal affairs and a mob and a wise guy. He had his own club, and I could talk about it now. It doesn't bother me because you know my family's good. But I was enamored by them. Like, you know, they would walk around with a band of, you know, as they say, C-notes, $100 bills, and custom-made suits, and everything was, you know. So I was enamored. But I was a fighter. You know, where I went to school, it was predominantly black, and I used to get in fights. I go to the bathroom, getting 3 fist fights in the bathroom. So I was a fighter, and I was enamored by this. So I grew up there. I had a great time. I was different. You know, I was very different. You know, I would wear Chinese clothes in the street when everybody else was dressed up like, you know, like an Italian. And I would wear Chinese clothes. Like, I was into the martial arts. I started training when I was 7.
You started training at 7?
Yeah. I saw Bruce Lee move. I saw Return
Karate?
No, I started in jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu?
But I wanted kung fu. I wanted Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Whatever he was doing, I wanted to do what he was doing. But it wasn't around. But there was this one guy, this Marine, who came back from, you know, he was served and he trained in Japan. He came back. And he had a jiu-jitsu school in Newark. So I studied there. And crazy childhood. You know, the martial arts for me was my out. Like, that helped me. You know, I was in an environment where I saw people get shot in front of me, stabbed. You know, a lot of bad things. What I did have was a very, very tight-knit family. And so it was a very unique upbringing. I had this crazy side of growing up in the city. Yet I had this really stable family, and you know, every macaroni meatballs every Sunday. Everybody was together. My grandparents were from Italy. My grandmother was Sicilian. My grandfather was Napolitan, and so I learned both languages. It was crazy growing up. I fought a lot. I would fight every day, and my father saw where I was going, and he was like, "We're packing up and getting the hell out of here." And him and my mother, I don't know how they did it to this day. I still wonder, you know, how much effort they put into it. But we rolled out of there, and they brought me to a town called Livingston, which is very different than Newark. It's a suburb, all white people, a lot of Jewish people. That's how my Jewish friends. I have so many Jewish friends now from that town. And I went there, and it changed my life. You know, I got my first black belt when I was 12 in jiu-jitsu. It wasn't like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It was classic Japanese jiu-jitsu, where Brazilian jiu-jitsu came from. Its origins are from there. And when I got to Livingston, I started training again. Found another martial arts school, and it was a style called Kyokushinkai. Very brutal, crazy training. I mean, crazy training. Full contact, no gear. We used to, you know, I was a kid, like 13, 14. We would get our asses, when I say kicked, like the Marines, you know, like crazy. Like, I mean, I come out of there bloody, bruised every night. We would train 3 hours at a clip. I would fight men at 13, 14 years old. It was crazy. But, you know, I look back at it now, man. You know, the things that all of us go through that a lot of people don't go through now, that's why we're here doing what we do. I think it builds that character and that spirit. But that was a great move for me. It was a dichotomy that worked out well for me because I learned the rugged side of life and the family side in Newark. Moved there and I started learning business, studying. I didn't care about school. All I wanted to do was train and fight. And when I moved to Livingston, you know, one of my best friends, Steve Goldman, his mother was a home ec teacher, and she used to be like, "You have to study. You have to study, James. You have to study." And I'd be like, "Study? I'm going to go outside and do a kata. I'm going to go train." And she'd be like, "No, study." So it changed my mindset, and everything stemmed off of that. You know, from my journey is pretty robust. You know, I went to school there. I was a good athlete. I played football. I wrestled. I also did martial arts. And then I went to Japan to fight.
How old were you?
18.
How did that happen?
Well, all I wanted to do was fight. The style that I trained in was an international style. It was huge. I don't know how this guy did it. The founder, the master of that, was named as Masoyama. We used to call him Sosai, God hand. Guy could chop the horns off of bulls. He would chop the horns off with his bare hand. He killed a crazy dude. But he was awesome. And the style, he went everywhere in the world. He had a school in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even up to the early 90s when he passed away. He had schools all over the world. Before internet, before any kind of technology, he had schools all over. He was in like 120 different countries.
Oh, wow.
And when he passed away, and this is a little trivia, he passed away in 1993. He had at least 13 million students worldwide.
Wow.
Is that crazy? And he was a businessman too. Everybody paid $100 a year. Do the math back then. But he was an awesome, he to this day, that organization flourishes like no other. There's probably 30 million people, big in Eastern Europe. They're still tough and old school. It's brutal. So I found it, and I was like, I loved it. It was hard. It was everything I was. And I trained in it. It was very spiritual. I had this strange side of me. My mother's not Italian. She's half American Indian, Comanche. And her mother, I used to call her, my grandmother, Sitting Bull. She was an Indian, like a real Indian.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They lived out in the country.
Wow.
It was two totally different worlds. I went from urban to rural, and but it was a good thing for me. And I think that really had an impact on me because I had a lot of, I was very different, man. I had like a reoccurring dream for 21 years. I was always into spirituality. And
what was the dream?
It's interesting, Frank. I tell very few people. And I think I was telling you, these filmmakers came and they want to do a movie.
You did tell me that, yeah.
And you might have experienced this when you go through that process. You think about things that you forgot. Like things come back to you.
They do.
That, like you can.
I know. I've gone through that.
I didn't forget about the dream, but a reoccurring dream. I used to have this dream from like single digits, far back as I can remember, that I was kind of hovering at like telephone pole height, and I would just levitate down the street in the city in Newark, and I would just look down at everybody. I had this peacefulness to me, and I couldn't wait to have that dream again. Like I would have it, and then when I was like 21, it just ended. It was the strangest thing, but that dream had a profound impact on my esoteric side of me, which is very strange. Growing up where I did, and
of course,
the way I am.
Yeah, I know.
And so spirituality has always been a very powerful component in my life. When I went to Japan, I lived in a Zen temple for 6 months, shaved my head. I was a monk for 6 months, which was a very big twist for me, growing up the way I did.
What was that experience like?
God, it was wild. I was so deep into it, Frank, the martial arts. Like I was it and it was me. You know what I mean? And I couldn't wait to get in there. Like I would meditate 4 to 8 hours a day. That's not easy to do when you grew up like we did.
No.
Like, just sitting still for that long in meditation. That taught me self-discipline and self-control really as a function of our own mindset. And that we could achieve anything if you set your mind to it, anything. And that really facilitated a big change in my life because I realized, I was very energetic. And when I was able to sit that long, I realized that you could do anything. Like you could really do anything. And I was like, it was like a fantasy. I'm in a temple, a Zen temple with these monks living. So that was a profound impact on me. I was also training too. I was training like to fight, but it was this hard and soft dichotomy, which is yin and yang, which is big in the East. And I was always enamored by the East, specifically the Japanese. The Japanese make everything an art. They get up in the morning and just seek perfection. They indulge 100% of their mind, body, and spirit into whatever they're doing, and the goal is to achieve perfection, which is impossible, right? but that's the self-fulfilling motivation. You're always seeking perfection. And, you know, that became the fabric for everything I do. Everything I do. And it's formed and forged my spirit. So I think that pursuit of perfection has always compelled me. I still find myself doing things that are crazy. Like I'll walk into your place and fix the picture on the wall so it's straight. Like, you know, it's this perfection. This crazy. It's crazy. I call it perfection. It's probably OCD. But very powerful, Frank. You know, the Japanese have so many great expressions. And I just said something to a guy the other day in the street. Some guy just walking by him, and I'm like, dude, you okay? He's like, yeah. We started talking, and you know, and I knew he was banged up, and I just started talking to that guy, and I remember saying to him, I go, you know, there's an expression Japanese have. I said, life in every breath, right? And he looked at me like he had an epiphany, like he just looked different. He goes, I'm never gonna forget that, life in every breath. I said, so think about wasting any breath. It's God given. So every breath is a blessing. So, you know, I live with these principles, and you know, the martial arts. I'm a martial artist before I'm anything. You know, I'm a human. I'm a humanist, but I'm a martial artist before I'm anything. I've been in the hedge fund and private equity business for 35, 40 years, and you know, the reason I got into Wall Street trading specifically was it was the closest thing to fighting without fighting, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more, though, about your actual experience, and then we'll get into all the other stuff, about your experience fighting in Japan. How long did you do it, and could you take us through what that was like? And then even, like, I want to, let's go there first, but I kind of want to hear, like, what's the mindset going into the fight as well and all that.
That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
You know, I was a very good athlete. I got a full scholarship to a university to play football. My father got it for me. I didn't want to go, man. I wanted to go to Japan to fight. That's all I wanted to do was fight. That was just in my spirit. You know, like I was the guy who was at a club, and if a fight broke out, I beeline right towards it.
I don't know why I was like that either.
It's crazy. It's counterintuitive, but that's, some people have that spirit, you know. And, you know, I feel like when I went to school, I hated school. I never thought I was smart. I knew I was smart in the street. I know nobody can get over on me, but I never felt book smart. I never applied myself to that. And I flunked out of school on purpose. I still see my father's face to this day. It broke his heart. And I flunked out on purpose because I wanted to go to Japan. So I went to Japan with that mindset. And, you know, I trained harder than everybody in my dojo. I just remember being in the class, and I'd be throwing the last punch. I'd make sure if I had to die, I'd get the last punch or kick going. You know, we were training. And that was my mentality. I was very driven to be the best at whatever I did. I was that way in football too. Everything I did. And I feel like that mindset is something that's very universal with high achievers. So when I went there to Japan, I was exposed to people from all over the world and the best of the best. And, you know, people are very linear thinkers, right? But if you think about the best fighters, right? The best fighters ever, like Muhammad Ali, right? One of the best fighters ever because he was the smartest fighter, right? The Gracies, they would beat everybody in the octagon more or less because they were the smartest, you know. And when I say smartest, that's all encompassing. They train smart, you know, go the extra mile, do whatever they had to. I felt like when I went there, I met all these people that were like, I knew I was like a superior mentality and fighter. And I trained martial artists. But when I went there, and you're in an organization that's tens of millions of people, and the best fighters in the world are there, you don't stand out like, you know, like a beacon. You may stand out here and there, but man, there's guys who are equally as good as you or better in certain things. So that changed me too, Frank. Like, you know, it humbled me. Like, dude, you got nothing. Like, you think you're killing everybody in the States. Now you're fighting guys, the Vikings from the Netherlands, Japanese, Russians, Samoans, South America. You're fighting all these people from all over the world. And these guys, have not, like, they came from nothing like you, and maybe even worse conditions, right? So they're fighting for their life. And that, again, took me to another level of excellence and seeking perfection, because you think you're at a level, right? In business, we all think we're at a level, right? I bought and sold 70 companies over my career. And I'm like, every time I get full of myself, I get humbled. I'm like, someone says something about a deal, and I'm like, I didn't think of that. That's awesome. You're learning every day. You're always honing your skill set, right? You guys are the best, but you could be better, right? Every day there's something you can do. That's the spirit I learned when I was there, and I'm very hard on myself, and I wouldn't doubt it if you both are either. Always want more from yourself, always pushing the fringes of what you're capable of, always seeking that life in every breath. And when I was around these people, there was people from all over the world. Some spoke English, some didn't. I spoke other languages, some I didn't. We all communicated incredibly. It was incredible. A lot of egos and yet a lot of humble. And I learned from Oyama to see the big picture. Like, he saw the big picture like nobody I've ever met. I mean, 13 million students. Think of that. In 93. I don't even know if the internet was created, like we were using it in 93. I think it was just starting, right?
Yeah.
He had this established before that. And when we did a tournament, it was literally a replication of the Olympics. We all wore a sports coat with slacks with our flag on it, carried our flag, and we walked through a procession of every country. Like, if you made it that far, you'd walk, and it was wild. And he'd have it set up like, it was like, remember, I don't know if I'm a little older than you guys, Wide World of Sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Like cameras
I
all
remember.
over, like the cameras where guys are sitting in chairs and it's coming down, like the whole thing. And it was, I was enamored by I was always a businessman, even at a young age, and I was enamored by this stuff. So I learned from him how to really look at the big picture of things. And I think that set the foundation of the way I thought even about business and life in general. And it was pretty profound. The training was crazy. We would train 4 to 8 hours a day.
Wow.
So, we would eat really healthy. I can get into so many stories, go out and for a beer and do those. But like, when people say raw fish, we ate live fish. It was crazy, like fish that were alive. You just drink, it's crazy. And, breaking things that shouldn't be broken, baseball bats with your shin, right? They would tape 3 or 4 together and we'd break them on our shin. Crazy stuff. Patio blocks with your shin. The level of scale, and I don't even want to say grandiosity, but it was like that. He ran it like a business, and it was a martial arts organization. And I was like, wow. And towards I got out of that. I was pretty young. I was 20, 21 when I got out. But I trained that time, and it was like a dream come true. The Japanese people are very different, man.
How long were you in Japan?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. I had a chance to go back to later on when I worked on Wall Street for this huge hedge fund. They had an office out in Tokyo, and an opportunity came for a position to cover it, and I went out there for a little while again. But it was, to this day, as Italian as I am, I must have been reincarnated from a samurai, because
Probably.
Japan, like that culture, is one of the most appealing to me. Like Italy is a really nice culture because it's family. It's everything slows down. Piano, slow it down. But Japan has this spirit of excellence in everything you do. You wake up, do your craft with 110% of your spirit, of your being, and put everything you have into it. Create everything's an art. The tea ceremony is art.
Yeah.
So that stayed with me my whole life. Everything I do is that.
Yeah.
All my systems and my businesses are predicated on that.
Have you seen the documentary Euro Loves Sushi?
No.
It's about a guy who has, I think it's in Japan. He has, it's like 12 seats. So he's never had more than 12 plates in his restaurant at a time.
You know what? It's funny. I just read that recently. Now it hit me.
Yeah.
So you might have read that. We might have read the.
It's a documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It's incredible. So,
I read an article. So you've seen it?
Yeah. It makes me think of what you just said, which is that, this is art. It's perfection every day.
Think about it, right? I hear that the people are waiting for like a year. I think I read something where Obama went out there, and the only reason he got in because like the emperor got him in.
That's the one. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a perfect example of, like that spirit. I would go to like a sushi place in Japan or Osaka, or Kyoto, and I would watch them make the food, and I'd be like, it was like a spiritual thing for me. It wasn't like, wow, this dude is good. I would look at this and go, his spirit is being infused into the art he's creating that we're going to consume. And 1,000%. But everything they do is like that. You know what I mean? It's not just everything. Like even in business, they're the same way. They're not always easy to do business with, but they're the same way. And it's so funny you say that. I literally read that about a week or two ago about that guy, an old master.
When you think about getting into the appeal of fighting for you, was it about aggression when you were younger? Was it about fear? Like, what was it just innate? I'm curious because some people will go towards it in the sense of, I feel I'm aggressive, or I had to defend myself. The more you talk about it, especially as you talk about your experience in Japan, the discipline and the process seems to be what really attracted to you. But from an early age, from the very beginning, was it that way, or was it something else?
Jay, I think I believe it was innate in me. My father, him and his brothers were very aggressive, violent. Like, in my neighborhood, something went down. They didn't talk,
I understand.
A gun came out, a baseball, something came out. I grew up with that. So that sociopathy affected me. But I think I was innately born to be a warrior. I feel like little kids who just see something like this and they have to do it. It's in them. It's in their spirit. And again, it circles back to my mother's side with the American Indians. Like the American Indians are very much like the Japanese too, the Asians. They're totally connected to the universe, to the world, right? Right. Everything to them is a spiritual component. It's all connected. But they'll go to war if you cross that line, at a principle. And I feel like I had that in me because, I think I had that nature at a young age. I remember fighting as far back as I can remember walking, I go into the bathroom, bang. And then being around it certainly didn't subdue it at all. It facilitated it. So that's a great question.
Because I feel like some of the, when I look at good fighters or the best fighters, it's not aggression that makes them the best. It's the cerebral. It's like what you talked about, right? It's fight intellect. It's a fighter's intelligence, and that's what you emanate that perspective. That it was very much a mindset and a cerebral process for you.
It's funny you say that because I remember back to when I was a kid, single digits. Channel 13 had this samurai soap opera, but they would actually, these Japanese, everything's an art, right? So especially acting, and they would be like samurai. I would watch this on Channel 13, living in Newark. I would watch this and be enamored. I loved the systems, the process, the discipline. The discipline was amazing. It appealed to me at a young age. They would sit in what's called seizan, a kneeling position, and so controlled, And I often wonder, if I liked that because I was around such violence that was not controlled.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Or didn't seem controlled to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it appealed to me to be that rather than these people that fly off the handle and shoot people. Or, I mean, you know what I mean? So I think the process and the systems appealed to me. You know, I love the rituals, the bowing, the respect. You know, you're just bowing into a true karate class. Is a very powerful experience. It's almost like a religious experience, you know. So, a great question. And I think it's innate, but it's also that need to be in control of yourself.
So, Amo, let me ask you. You were in there for 4 years in Japan.
Yeah, 3 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
I want to hear, like, what was it like, you know, prior to the fight? What was the mentality like?
Oh my God! So you know, martial arts, Bushido is different than the West. You know, where you see Conor McGregor training and talking smack and you know building up. There it was like the opposite. You didn't brag, you didn't boast, but you trained like a savage, like you know, if you could push yourself and push your body to the limit, you know, your mind would get to the point where you've trained so much that there's a thing called Mizu no Kokoro, the mind like the moon reflecting on the water. So you don't fight, you just go out and react, right? The mindset was emptiness. I try to get myself where I always told myself going in, you know, you've trained, you're ready, you're the warrior, no one could beat you. But I can remember like it was yesterday getting into the ring with people and I would just look across at the guy and they were always bigger than me. And I would be like, he has no idea what's going to happen to him. But then I would go into a state of almost emptiness where I stopped thinking and everything was primitive. It was just, I did everything I had to do. Now I'm just going to react. You know, it'll be a reflection. Mizu no Kokoro. And, you know, the training was severe, Frank, but the mindset was try to achieve peace. Like I was I think back now, I felt more calm then than I do now, which is a strange thing, 40 years later, right? I was more calm than I am now because that's all I trained to be calm. Because in a fight, you think of an MMA fight, how much energy is exerted. You start grappling, you lock up. You know, wrestling is I wrestled too, is one of the most difficult things. It's exhausting. The other person's pressure on you, right? Constant. You get exhausted. He who can be calm usually will have that reserve when it comes down to the extra inning. And that was my mindset. Be the calmest. You know, don't be arrogant. Be the calmest. You did everything you had to. And that mindset I try to instill in my, you know, I try to keep it within my toolbox, and I try to teach it to my kids.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, you come back from Japan, and then you hit Wall Street.
You know, it's funny.
What brought you to Wall Street?
You know, I talked to my best friend, Steve Goldman. He was a very smart guy, smarter than I realized. As I got older, I realized how smart he was. We were talking, and he's like, I go, what are we going to do when we get out of school? I said, I'm coming back. You're in school. I flunked out. I dropped out. He goes, we're going to become traders. I go, traders? I go, that's cool. I remember buying and selling stocks when I was 18, right? So I always had an interest in investing. So we started trading, took our own money. I think we had like $6 or $7 grand, and we started investing it. And we made like 30 grand in like 4 months. It was, looking back, it was
on your own?
Pure luck. Me and him.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in school, and I was coming back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I love this business. We were trading options. And when I came back, I decided that I'm working on Wall Street. And this is a great story. You'll appreciate this. So I didn't have any connections to get a job on Wall Street, right? So I went to the exchange one day, and I thought I could walk in. I realized you have to have a membership to get in, right? So I looked around. I'm like, trying to figure out how I can get in there. I wasn't getting in there, right? I left, came back a week later, suit and tie, briefcase. I walked in with a group of guys, like I fit in. I didn't have a badge, but I got in between them all, and I walked in. I snuck in the exchange, right? Like everything's I just posted unconventionality on my Instagram. this is a perfect example of it, right? And I say it, my first job on Wall Street, in that post. I snuck on the exchange, and I knew when I got in there I'd know somebody, because I knew a lot of guys from Livingston were Wall Street guys. I saw my friend Chipper, Brian Tracy, crazy kid, guy from Livingston. He was a hockey player, tough as nails. I saw him, I ran over, go, Chip. He goes, Emma, what are you doing here? I go, I snuck on. You got to get me a job, right? He goes, are you out of your effing mind? He goes, I know. He goes, I said, you got to get me a job right now. He introduced me to Frankie Barbarino from Brooklyn, right? I mean, Italian, the guy was off the boat, right? As it gets. Ginzoed to the max, but a tremendous trader, right? Introduces me to him. I talked to him for like 15 minutes. The guy came off the floor, spent time with me. He's like, you want a job? I go, like, yeah. He goes, $300 a week, come in 2 weeks, $300 a week. I said, done, right? This is going way back in the 80s. So I started working for him. For a short period of time, I got a job with this other bigger operation from out in Chicago called Barnes. And then I was in the trenches, like in the pits trading. Like I wasn't even a trader then. But I just had a knack for it. Like it was fighting to me. People banging around, pushing people, getting in fights. I tell people, come out. I was crazy, right? But I caught on to the flow of it. Like I realized, like, again, this is like fighting. You got to be as calm as you can be. Like I could see the guys who get flustered. They're not making money. They're getting flustered. Where these other guys who are like Zen masters. Like there's a thing called moving Zen, right? Like a form. You ever know what a kata is? Like a prearranged move. That's moving Zen. I said, you have to be moving Zen. It's no different than fighting in a ring. What they're doing, peace, calm, tranquility, and I applied the fighting mentality to that, and I started getting a knack of it, and I started like I became like a liaison between the people who were ordering, buy 1,000 lots to the trader, and then I just did really good at it. You have 2 phones, and I wound up getting in the pit, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I'm beyond this. I'm way beyond this. It's a tough life, man. People don't realize in the pits it's tough. You're yelling, screaming, your voice is even like worse than mine is naturally, right? So I wound up getting a job, what's called upstairs, with a company called Revco. It was the largest FCM, Futures Commission Merchant, in the world. One guy owned it. And man, was he printing money. So I went up, I became a currency dealer. And I started buying and selling currency, all kinds of currency back then. It was the G7 back then. For big hedge funds. So we were we were like in between, not a broker, but a dealer. We would talk to the banks, and I'd be on a phone with a bank like this and a hedge fund like this. They'd say, all right, buy me 50 million squid, which is British pounds. I get on the phone with bank, 50 million squid. Boom, sold. All right, so this is what I did. But I started covering all the big hedge funds. We started covering Soros, Lewis Bacon Moore, Tudor, and I used to read all these Wall Street magazines. Again, seek perfection, right? I started reading everything that was trading, everything investing, and this guy Paul Tudor Jones stood out in my mind. He was like a rock star, and his uncle was a cotton trader, and he became this hedge fund guy in the '80s, and he was like a rock star, young, good-looking Southern boy. He had a Southern draw to him, but he was awesome, right? And I'm like, I used to read about him in Barron's and Forbes and every magazine you could think of. I'm like, this is the dude I want to work for. So long story short, I meet this girl. She's a headhunter, blah, blah. She gets me an interview there. I go in the interview. I meet his second-hand man, Peter Borsch, get a job with him, start 2 weeks, everything changes. And that was my intro to hedge funds. Big leagues, much bigger than you think, and it's intimidating, I was cultured. My family was very cultured, but I wasn't ready. Like it hit me hard. But I had been going to school too. I started going to Rutgers for economics, which ironically I hated when I first started going to school. When I got the full ride for football, I took an economics class. I couldn't understand the word the guy was saying. He had an accent. Plus, I didn't understand it. It bored me. I'm like, ah. But I went back and I got I'm an economist by education.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. At Rutgers?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm a trader by trade.
Right.
And so I was going to school at night, And I was working a lot. All I did was work and train. I was still training. And I got that job, and it changed my life. You know, we would go in the war room, right, in the office, right, the conference room. It would fit 16 people. It was huge. They were the smartest people. Like, I would go in that room, and with MIT, Yale, Wharton, Harvard, every big school you could dream of. I'm talking geniuses, like, you know, next, like 150, 160 IQ. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, Emma, you got to up your game, dude. Like, but I knew they didn't have what I had. They didn't have the eye of the tiger. I was in the trenches fighting with people, Vikings. You know, I would think of these Vikings, guys from Netherlands, you know, who I fought, who were 6'6", you know. And I'd be like, they don't have it. They don't have what you have, right? That's your key. And I still didn't think I was intelligent. But I started studying. I taught myself how to study. And I started going to school and getting straight A's. And I studied economics. And then I realized how smart I was. And that, I think, facilitated me opening my first dojo to help other people.
When was that?
92.
1992.
Opened up my first
How old
dojo
were
in
you?
92. 28. So
And you're working on Wall Street, and now you're opening your first
my
dojo.
first dojo for two reasons. Because it was, I still taught my friends martial arts. I lived in the city at the time. That's when I became a New Yorker. I lived in the city for like 8 years. And I started teaching my friends martial arts and traders. And I decided that when the dojo was, I had friends all over the world who would come to the States, and I didn't have a dojo for them to train at. And they would go to my friends' dojos. And I said, you know what? I'm making a lot of money. Before I started making money, I said, you know, that's a whole other story. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to open a dojo. I don't care if I lose money. And my sister, my mother, ran the dojo for me because I had no interest in running the business. All I wanted to do was train, teach people. But I opened that dojo. I was just telling a story. It's so funny going over this again, right? There's reasons everything happens. He lines everything up for us.
Always.
I opened a door with 60 students. I opened a door, like, you know, firing on all cylinders. And my sister got me 60 students. She was a teacher in the town that I opened up a dojo. In this little suburban town, all Italians in this suburban town. It was crazy. She got me 60 students, and I loved it. I was teaching. I would go from the city to the suburb every night, teach. But then I had some other students who would help me teach. Long story short, that's where everything changed for me. At 28, I self-diagnosed that I had dyslexia. And we were talking about earlier about the filmmakers, how you got to go backwards and you remember things. I forgot I was always with this one teacher. I'll never forget her, Mrs. Baldwin. I was probably 8, 9 years old. I would go to her class for an hour a day, a special class. I forgot all about it. But when I self-diagnosed, I remembered that. I started talking to my mother about it. And I never forget the woman. I loved her. She used to write me letters. The woman loved me. The teacher. And my mother loved her. And I'm like, Mom, I had dyslexia. I self-diagnosed. And the reason I self-diagnosed, a guy came to me, I'll never forget this. Peter Engel brought Harris Engel to my dojo. It was 1993, almost 94. He's like, I had a title called Shihan. He's like, Shihan, which means master of masters. He's like, can you help my son? I go, what's wrong with your son? He goes, he has autism. 1993, nobody knew what autism was, right? Gives me a book, like 300 pages. I said, I don't know anything about it. He goes, I got a book in my car. Can I give it to you? I said, sure. I read that book that night. I called him the next day, thought I was nuts. He goes, you read the whole book? I said, the whole thing. I can help him. And that was really God's way of squaring me up with myself in a sense, where I started reading everything about the mind and how these learning disorders affect kids and people. And I was able to self-diagnose. And that was a powerful epiphany for me, because I realized, man, I said, I'm confident. I realized I was smart, because I always thought I was dumb my whole life. Like, I thought I was horrible shit in school. I did horrible in school. I didn't apply myself. Sports, I was the captain. Wrestling, football, whatever I did, I was the captain. Mm-hmm. Fastest, strongest, smartest, like in terms of that. But school, nothing. And that really changed my life, because I realized, how many people must struggle because they have an undiagnosed learning disorder, and they're not the highest level of themselves because they don't have a tool to make them aware of this and teach them. And that changed everything for me. That's where SNAP came from, Special Needs Adaptive Program. Boom, right then, done. And I self-diagnosed, everything changed. And in around 1995, I decided to change everything about my organization. I totally made it mine. I was still teaching like Kyokushin and this other style I studied called Goju-ryu and Shotokan. I was still teaching all in white. I changed everything. I modernized everything. And even my logo, if you look at it, I did it back then, but it's still, kids look at that and go, man, that's a cool logo. And I changed everything. I changed the systems. I'll never deviate from the etiquette, the traditional etiquette, the Japanese etiquette. I'll never deviate from that. We bow informally. My dojos run really strict, really old school, and it'll never change, ever. But that, again, circles back to those systems and rituals. You know what I mean? I'm a fanatic with it.
So how many dojos do you have now? 28. You started at 20 years old. Your first one.
I had a bunch of physical locations at one point, a couple dozen, and in the early millennium, my brother got sick and passed away, and I just lost my drive to do things. A lot of things. He was my best friend, and I had businesses going. I had a private equity fund. I had a lot of things going on back then. But I stopped and I kept a couple, and then my kid came. My first son was 2006, and he was like a little glimpse of hope for me because my brother passed. It was really hit me hard. Yeah, and I couldn't. It didn't affect me for years because I couldn't. I was the guy. I was the man of the family. My father was getting older, and my mother, and my brother just passed away, and. So I scaled down, but I started doing the other things. I started another hedge fund. I had the private equity, did all these things. But in probably 2011, 2012, right around there, we started scaling up again. And the special needs program really started taking off. And I started building up all these different programs. I had one for wounded warriors who came back. I started doing a program for them who had PTSD.
Amazing.
It was, but let me tell you, man, I learned a lot about myself, how dialed into warriors I am. I have a connection with people who are warriors, especially like who've gone to war. I helped quite a few guys, but I would get so connected to them, it would crush me. I would physically feel their pain. And specifically this one guy, Matt, his platoon went into this thing. They got ambushed. He was the only one that survived. I don't know how many people were in the platoon, but there's quite a few. And he got hit with a IED, and it blew his arm off. But I don't know how he saved. I don't know how this guy survived, but he had this scar that went like around his arm up to his shoulder into his chest, and he had a lot of problems. I remember I changed it to the snake. We called it the snake. It wasn't a scar anymore. It was the snake and this whole thing. And that was powerful for me. So we changed, and now I'm all over. Like now we have all these programs are all over. We teach in the inner city. I have a program for inner city kids like I was. What I find in the inner city, it's a vicious cycle, and it's very, very hard to get out of that. So we teach in the school systems in Newark, in the school system.
Amazing. So that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't know that.
One of my most powerful things. Yeah. We donate a lot to that. I raise money for that, for our program. And that's one of my prizes too, because I'm actually helping kids get out of I'm teaching them a set of principles and a skill set that'll help them overcome the struggles that you deal with.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle, the inner city.
It is.
So, that's something that these other programs that have facilitated as tentacles of the martial arts are more powerful. They affect me more deeply than the actual martial arts now, because it's still martial arts based.
Right.
We have in our SNAP program, we teach at these facilities.
Talk about the SNAP program, because we talked about it before we were on camera.
Okay, so the Special Needs Adaptive Program, we came up with that, right? That's a program it started out with autism, all right? Peter Engel and Harris Engel facilitated that for me. And from there, it went to any person who was neurodivergent, right, who had any kind of neurological challenge or learning disorder. Then it went to kids with cerebral palsy. Then it went to adults. We do like pre-K kids all the way through adulthood. We teach. And that program is one of the most powerful things that I've ever done. There's people who come into the class. My guys teach classes, right? They'll go to a facility we teach at some of the most prestigious facilities in the tri-state area. And they'll go in, and I say prestigious, not to brag, but they have some of the most challenging cases. I mean, there's some people in a wheelchair who can only move their fingers. You know, they're driving in with their tongue. And I've been in there and taught with some of these people, and I get so moved that I got a young person who only can move their fingers, but they're sweating bullets. And I said, you're working as hard as I did when I used to fight, to compete in a ring in front of 30,000 people. And that was such an inspiring thing. And to this day, we're doing that on a much grander scale. I want to go across the country though, like now, like with this thing. This thing is so big. And that's why one of the reasons, like, I'm excited, like even tonight we have this business development thing through the United States Black Belt Hall of Fame, where I'm going to meet other school owners and start teaching about these things. And hopefully they'll implement it into their school system, and it'll help them. It'll improve the quality of their life. It's a whole nother program they could add on. And but it's probably one of my most prized achievements, things that we've ever done, along with the inner city program. So the need to help people like you guys, when you have someone who's has addiction. I have a family member who's gone through that, and thanks to many people, but Darren helping, and he's been sober for 2 years. Mike, my nephew, but I've seen what that does to people and families, man. Like personally, and I still get angry with Michael. It conjures up an anger in me. But I've seen what it did to Darren. I've seen him coming out the other end, what it's done.
Well, you see what it does to society. You see, and it's interesting. The recovery is the opposite. When it changes, how it changes communities, how it changes individuals, families.
Yeah.
We often talk a lot about the damage, rightly so. But man, when a person becomes the catalyst for transforming that process for their family, and then the people around them are impacted as well. So
they become a beacon of hope, inspiration, right? And that's what I was telling you earlier. Like, we have a different vehicle, us, right? You do your thing, right? Emotion, I do the martial arts, but the end result is the same. We're helping someone who's struggling.
Absolutely.
Right? I help people that are struggling, just maybe emotionally, mentally. You are too, though, right? They have a substance issue, but it still goes back to mental and emotional, right? Something triggered that. And I think that, like what Darren does, right? What you guys do, what you went through. I don't know your story, Jay, but I'm sure you might have a similar story.
He's a military, 10-year military.
Well, there you go.
Pat Tillman Scholar Award winner.
When I was in Arizona, there was a guy who was using jiu-jitsu to work with people with trauma. And so you mentioned it earlier. I think what I see I would say it's universal. Similar to physical activity is a universal intervention for humans. A lot of people, especially ones who maybe have a belief that they can't or it's not for them, they struggle with that. But it is a universal psychiatric intervention, which is way underused. It's getting a lot more traction, but just getting your heart rate up, the sweat, all of that, right? But when you teach somebody who was a victim, like a legitimate victim, not victim mentality, not that type, but someone who was truly a victim of another person's overwhelming size, strength, and they get a sense of stability and control with their body, right? And I know you see this in the work that you do, but a lot of people don't understand how that piece plays out for a person with mental health issues or trauma, because now that you have the ability and you feel more confident, that right there puts you in a different state walking around the planet. And then when you walk around the planet feeling more confident and more secure, you show up different. And when you show up different, you get different results. People, a lot of times we're not looking at this, the long-term effect of how it layers across. We think we just go in, like when it comes to mental health, right? You go into a therapy session, you do the therapy, and that's you working on your mental health. And it's like, no, mental health is, I'm doing these things that like, I'm mental hygiene. I'm taking care of myself. I'm quiet. Maybe I'm not living in a Zen monastery, but I'm taking quiet time every day. I'm drinking more water. I'm taking care of myself physically. I'm showing up to a thing that requires effort, whether it's karate training or martial arts training or working out or whatever it is. I don't care. Like if you're running every day, like go do something that requires effort that you wanted to talk yourself out of, that victory, right? So you've talked a lot about it today, and I was interested in this conversation from the parallels of how similar. You talked about the confidence that it took for you to go break into Wall Street, right? And then just know I got to get there, and this desire. And I would imagine that in the martial arts training, you find yourself in all kinds of compromising positions, especially up against people who are either bigger, stronger, faster in some regard, right? And so there's this training process of the mind of problem solving. That's what you described. What people with addiction often don't get in front of is a therapist or a helper or a provider who can say to them, yeah, that skill set of you selling dope on the streets, that's a skill set. And that's a business mindset. And we just need to take that focus and move it over here.
Absolutely, brother.
The survivability, right? So life is hard. We all know that. And I'm not here to put anyone on a pedestal, but people, if you suffer with addiction, life's incredibly hard. We got to acknowledge that, right? Even the most judgmental person will say, yes, if I had an addiction, my life would be harder. And you think about the skill set that it takes to survive that. So we start to look at these positives, and I love that. You talked a lot today about safety. You said it in the form of I got control, but what is control? What's the perception of control? It provides safety. So I think just like the universal intervention of physical activity, a lever that we can pull on and we can pursue that will change our life is when I can create safety for myself. We create safety with resources. Like I get a job, right? I have a good place to live. Last thing I'll say is along these lines, because you're talking about the military. So many years ago, the VA, the Veteran Affairs Hospital, had a program, and it was for substance use, homeless vets and stuff. And so someone had a novel idea. This was novel. They were like, you used to have to get sober to get housing, right? And somebody said, who the fuck wants to be sober on the street? Like, you know how hard it is? So it's easier to be on the street when you're messed up. Mm-hmm. So it's called housing first. So they switch. I forget what year it was.
They reversed it.
Yeah. So you get the house and then you enter into treatment for your addiction because the environment and where you
bro.
Safety. Yeah.
How are you gonna get sober?
And
on
guess
the
what
street?
happened to the results? They went skyrocket. But people are scratching their head like, wait, you're going to give them a house? They're not sober. It's like, well,
that's going to help them
get
get
the
sober.
House, they're going to get sober.
You know what? I love that. Jason, you said something very powerful just now. So, Frank, you take what he just said and look at it a little differently. It goes back to how we look at things, right? How we look at exactly that. Get them sober, then give them a house, right? I find the smartest people in the world see the most obvious thing that others don't see. That's right in our face, right? Someone looked at that and said, we have it ass backwards. Put them in an environment where they can actually change their mindset and possibly thrive and say, hey, this feels pretty good in here. I don't have to worry about surviving in the street, right? And also, what I love about what you just said, drug dealer. That's a skill set. You're a salesman, along with other things. You're an accountant. You're all these things, right? You're pushing the wrong thing, but the product.
Absolutely.
But you're a salesman. You have this. You're a business person, right? Yeah. When you talk to people like that, instead of, what do we always do? We put them down. You're a drug dealer. You're a piece of shit.
You're selfish and you're self-centered.
You're selfish, right? You flip it. The mindset changes instantly.
Absolutely.
And that's the same concept we use with like the program we teach in the school. Like we run along a lot of kids who are traumatized. I didn't get into this with you guys. It's a hard topic for me to talk about, but I was bullied as a kid, severely bullied. And I dealt with it internally. I wouldn't tell my brother and my father because I knew they would kill this kid. Right. They wouldn't hurt. I was probably 7, 8 years old when he was bullying me. He was 13. And I'll never forget, I remember his name and everything. And I tell this story to a few people. And that really affected my whole life. And I feel like that's why I do what I do. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times people who are substance abusers become the fixers. You have to.
Absolutely.
It always reminds you where you could be. And it also is a blessing that you're helping someone else out of the trenches where you were. And you know, with my nephew, I see, I get angry with him. Like me and my mother were just talking about it the other day, right? I get so pissed off at this kid. He's late 30s. He's still kind of like a kid. And once you start, I feel like when you do drugs at a young age, like 15, 16, you don't grow up. That's the age you get stuck at.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? And it's hard. Like he calls and asks for money, different things. And I get so pissed off. My mother, who's going to be 90 this year, he calls her and I catch myself, humble yourself. It makes her feel good to help him, right? And his mother passed away, my sister, it's a whole thing. But the mentality of that, I love these things. I feel like there's an integration, there's a synergy between what I do and what you do that's not utilized enough. And I try to use this. In 2002, 2003, I hooked up with a guy who was an ex-professional football player, Frank Mattias. He had counseling for kids who had problems. And he's like, Ammo, I think the martial arts would be huge here. And we integrated this thing. We used to call it Mind Matters. And it was a great program. And then we went our separate ways. But I still do that. Like, we do that. But it's a thing where, like you guys, if you had someone here to teach martial arts or a program where they can go train once a week, it's the discipline of doing something for yourself and accomplishing something for yourself that nobody sees but you. Absolutely. It's an internal, implicit value and gratification that builds your confidence. And that's, I think, is a big facilitator to healing.
Absolutely, yeah. Or if you think about your own story, like, not to put it on you, but, you know, the interpretation that the bullying makes a lot of sense to me, because every rep, every shin breaking a baseball bat was you telling that 7-year-old version of yourself that's never going to happen again.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Chase, I remember, like, remember the old version of Death Wish with Charles Bronson? I remember seeing a scene where his daughter, wife was getting raped, and I remember I wanted to throw like a rock, like something in my house through the thing. My father goes, "What are you doing?" Like, I really wanted to throw something through the TV. That's how much it bothered me. I said, I can tell you right now, Dad, your son will be dead or in jail. If I ever see someone getting attacked on the street, I will go into action. No thoughts. I'm saving that person, because that'll never happen to anybody I even, let alone know anybody I ever see. And I've been that way my whole life. That's got me in a lot of trouble. Blessing to me, but a lot of trouble over the years, because I'm the guy who walk out here, something's happening, I'm going to action. Yeah. Erica, my wife, always says to me all the time, she goes, you're going to go to jail one day. I said, you know what? If I go to jail for the right thing, I'm okay with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have to live by principles. I post up principles and purpose. Yeah. Principles and purpose. Let your principles guide you, and let your purpose drive you.
So let me ask you this question, Amo. So, you know, how has your martial arts career affected you in business?
No, it's Frank, it's like I said earlier, it's every business that I've ever owned is the same. Like when I started private equity, let's go back further. When I traded, it was martial arts. Go in with the same mindset you did when you trained. See, there's an expression in fighting: train like you fight, fight like you train. The training and fighting is no different. When you're prepared, you were in the Marines?
Air Force.
Be prepared. You ever get into a dog fight, it's just a reaction. You've done all the work already, right? Same thing with trading. Trading is one of the hardest things you could ever do as a professional. Like, trading is a very difficult thing. You're against billions of people, right? So the mentality of keeping cool under pressure, staying composed, sticking to the plan, bob and weave, adjust, duck, and, you know, that mentality and the structure, the rituals I do the same thing in business. Like, I do the same things. Like, people work for me, think I'm nuts. Like, I'm like a Marine. This is what we do. We don't deviate. But we're always seeking to get better. So I'll talk about it. Say me and you work together. You're on a team. You're like, Ammo, this thing is just, it could be better. Like, Jay, tell me about it. Well, let's talk about it. And if it makes sense to me, let's have an open discussion with the staff who's in that space, and we'll talk about it. I will change something, frankly, focused. Like there's no ego. I'm not the big dog. I listen to my staff because I'm me. I'm one person. Your experience is vastly different. So you might bring something to the table that I didn't even think about. You know what I mean? So I feel like the ability to have systems in place, be disciplined to them, but be extremely flexible to change on a dime, especially in this environment where everything is yesterday with technology, right? Even in your game, my game. And private equity is a difficult business. It's very competitive. And you're as good as the last company you bought. I still have businesses where we trade and invest people's money. That's always on my mind, but I have discipline to stick to the recipe, to the process. And I don't deviate unless it's warranted. But I'll deviate in 2 seconds. And I think good people who are good C-suite level or good founders, I'll invest in their companies a lot of times because their ability to accept responsibility and change. Mm-hmm. If it's my way, you're no good. You'll never grow. You will never achieve. That's different than sticking to something that you know works and that you are 100% in and passionate about, right? Mm-hmm. Like no one's going to tell you to, quit. You can't. But your process might change. I might say something, you're like, Emma, what do you mean by that? And we talk, and you're like, I might implement that.
Well, that's the difference between somebody who's connected to their purpose versus themselves. So that's a very egocentric way to go about life, and a lot of people do it where it's like, it affects me versus the team and the mission. And when you have that focus, the decisions are easy because it's like it's not about me; it's about this other thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you said regarding I think about martial arts. I think about just business in general, and I don't have nearly the experience you do with the various companies, but I think the ability to get punched and dodge a punch is wildly effective in business. You got to be able to take a hit and know that you can get up. And I feel like the reps and the sets of all the training that you did and just like with me, that every day going into the gym, I dropped into a class the other day and hadn't been in that environment for a minute and really hadn't been training very hard, but it's the mindset. Like there was this, and there's information that you have from all of those reps and sets. And one of the guys that was in the class, younger, I hadn't been there, was talking to me about, you wore a vest and you lapped me and this type of stuff. And I said, look, I wouldn't even say that I'm more fit than you. I said, I strategically attacked this workout with my experience in a different way than you did. I knew how to pace myself. I knew how to. So that's the stuff that when you're in a training and fighting, and I think about something as volatile as the market, and it's like there's so many things changing all the time. So it's just like that transfer of skill. Like I'm selling dope, or I'm going to go sell pharmaceuticals, or I'm going to go sell microphones or whatever it is. It's the same skill, right? So the skill that has me assessing my opponent and adjusting when it doesn't go my way is the same skill that has me saying, oh, man, I lost a bunch of money today. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to get right back at it. I'm assuming you're a very good fighter, but you didn't win every fight, right? So you just understand that you don't win them all.
Jay, I love what you just said, because here's another one for you. I often quote the Japanese because they have the coolest, it's so deep. They have an expression, pen and sword in accord. So the pen, business, sword, the warrior, they're both, you need both to balance, right? Yeah. You went into that workout strategically. You had muscle memory, intelligence, right? That's how you have to run a business. You have to be flexible. You change things. You adjust. You stick to your purpose, right? Be driven by, your principles. I don't break my principles for anybody. Going back to us saying I get arrested, I am bound by the universe, by God, to help people. If someone's getting hurt on the street and they got a gun or a knife, I'm going. Let the chips fall where they may be. I have enough skill to hopefully work, but I can't walk away. Like I see these videos now of people videotaping other people getting beat up. What kind of? You're not a human being anymore. Yeah. You've devolved into a point where, you are in a service. You almost have that obligation, a sense, right? To serve, to help, to protect, and I think all the things that I do predicate, to be honest with you, back to being bullied.
Yeah,
the warrior spirit that was there, but being bullied to that level, I never stopped.
As soon as you said it, it clicked for me. I was like,
you
oh,
know.
that was
There it is,
That
right?
was really the answer to my question about what when got into the martial arts, was you find it was aggressive or control, and it was safety. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I started the martial arts before that happened, but it was almost simultaneous. It was strange. You know what I mean? But that to this day, definitely I've always known that facilitates me to continue training, stay in shape. My mindset is I still train. Like I go to the dojo and train, but I go to the gym too. I like to cross train, right? My own thing. I train like a Spartan still. I put the headset on. I don't talk to anybody. And I see these 20-year-old kids look at me like, "Oh, you crazy?" I had 3 chains around my neck doing dips the other day, and this kid next to me, this young, good-looking kid, goes, I came off. He goes, "Can I ask you how old you are?" I go, "Old enough to be your father."
I've seen you train karate. I've seen you throw
He's like,
kicks.
He goes, "Who does that? The chains around your neck?" I said, "It's painful." I said, "You got to fight through pain to get through things." Everything to me is like you get through the pain, the struggle, come out the other end. There's always some kind of revolution.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And coming here, I was extremely excited to see Frankie, and I as soon as I saw you, I'm like, Jason, I would love to, like, I don't know Jay, but I would love to hear, like, you had to go through hell too in your life to do what you do, to be here.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. Well, I didn't get brought to the work because it's going to make me rich. Yeah, I think that all the helpers I've ever met that are committed and extremely good at their craft, I'm in a position where, and it can be a sword that cuts you sometimes too, right? So sometimes we're not fighting anybody but ourselves, or maybe most of the time.
That's oftentimes.
Yeah. And I've seen it recently, but the wounded kid inside of me gets a lot of safety and healing from the way that I act in the world and the way that I show up for other people. So showing up for you, showing up for Frank, anyone in my life, the way that, even the way that I lead, not that I don't make mistakes often, but the way that I've built this program and how I've opted to be as a leader is in response to how I was treated when I worked for people. Like I'm just not going to be that. There's just no way.
I respect that.
We talk a lot about, and Casey's been with me from pretty much the beginning, and we talk a lot about how when people get signed up here, one of the battles they have to get through, there's a couple of things. The environment's really cool, so you have to have a lot of discipline because, like, you're supposed to be at work, but you have a gym and a sauna and a cold plunge. And it's like, motherfucker, get to work. You know what I mean? Like, the phone's ringing and you're over here in the sauna. No, you have to be able to self-discipline and manage your time. But the other thing is releasing and letting go of workplace trauma, because we really do have a system in play. Not that it's perfect by any stretch, but the way that problems are handled, the way that mistakes are dealt with, it really is a therapeutic healing process, because that's the only way I know how to do it. I'm not gonna repeat I can't. I've been scarred enough, and those days are I want to put as far behind me as possible. So, yeah.
That's great.
So I was definitely brought to the world. I didn't know that I was kind or soft. I knew I was sensitive. I knew I was never going to tell.
That doesn't make you soft.
Yeah, I knew I wasn't ever going to tell anybody that when I was younger. I got sober at 27. So when I sobered up, I was putting back then, and I would do it again today, but I think it was easier back then. I had drunks on my couch, like vets. I was like pulling people from the streets and they were on my couch, and I'm detoxing them in my, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just like 12-step guy, like trying to help out. And people took notice to that and said I should probably go to school and maybe do something with it. And I said, yeah. And then I left and went to San Diego to chase money and pretty girls, and did that for like a year and was really empty and not feeling it. I kept going. I would take these trips to Hawaii to like reset myself, and I'd come back and I'd be good for a couple of weeks, but I'd be like, this sucks. And then one day God showed up in the form of a woman in Tucson, and she said, I got a job for you, and I hear you're the person I need. I was like, well, what is it? She's like, well, I work with at-risk youth, and I need you to take them camping and hiking. And I was like, people get paid for that shit? Like, you can get paid to do that? And she's like, yeah.
It's fun to me, right?
And the woman who I worked for was a person in recovery. And I walked down the hall. It was the day before my birthday. And I was like, I'm going to Tucson tomorrow. I don't think I'm coming back. And I would give you a 2-week notice, but I can't. I got to go. And I just intuitively knew I'm going to go here for my birthday and I'm not coming back. And I didn't. I basically stayed, and that set me on my path. Yeah. So
you asked me a question earlier about the fighting. Was it innate or was it something I learned? I was just thinking when you were saying that, bringing people like vets and addicts on your couch. I feel like it's experience because you went through it, but I also feel like there's something within us. The spirit of us.
You're
is
called
innate.
to it for sure.
Yeah, you're called to that. You know what I mean? Like your business is not easy, right? Because it takes so much energy to give to people. And it's like the martial arts. I tell my guys all the time. I tell one of my prerequisites, it's a requirement. You have to train as much as you teach. Teaching is constantly giving. You got to fill that cup back up so that you can give again, right? That cycle, same thing. And I would think, I see it all the time with my SNAP program. Those PT, OT, those people that work in that field with these special needs kids, I tell them all the time, like I said, you're the true heroes. You are a hero. You are a hero. I go, not many people could do what you do.
Yeah.
It's painful, but it's also such a pleasure when you see progress, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love that. I love the whole process of the pain and coming through the other end. I still put myself through that process.
Yeah, I hope I do.
I love it.
Till it's over. So,
So let me ask you this, Hamo. What an amazing interview. What's going on with you now? Like as far as life, business.
Life is great with the woman of my dreams. I love her to death.
I wish I could have met her.
Yeah, I know. I said to her when we were flying out, I go, I'm coming out to see Frankie. I'm going to see him a day. He's going back to New York. We're going to hang out. I go, we're doing it first, but we'll have to do it again. I'm happy. I'm struggling personally with my oldest son. He's a junior, James Jr. Beautiful kid, super, genius, great athlete, savage, great person. But he's struggling with me since the divorce. I divorced his mom and this whole thing, and it's the biggest challenge in my life, to be honest with you. Like, I love my kid so much that, I put my whole life into him. I had a hedge fund in like 05, 06. My son was born in 06. I'm like, dude, I told my partners, I'm like, listen, I'll roll out right now, but I'm leaving at 3 o'clock. In the market, you don't leave before 4 o'clock. When the market closes, you can leave. I'm like, I'm picking my kid up at preschool. I'm hanging out with him. And so I struggle with that, but, and it hits me. It hits me hard, man. Like, I struggle sometimes to be happy because of that. I mean, I don't talk to the kid. It's hard for me because I put my whole life into him. But business-wise, it's awesome. We started the Legacy Fund. I have great partners. Darren Prince, as you know, dear friend of yours. I know he's out here recently. Dominique Wilkins, NBA Hall of Fame legend, who you also are engaged with in business and friendship. Kevin Harrington. I have other friends in who are in residual components of this that I'm involved with. A great team. The martial arts is awesome. I still train. We're ready to take that to a whole nother level now, like a crazy next level. Getting inducted into the United States Blackfoot Hall of Fame is
what an amazing accomplishment.
What an honor.
Yeah.
It's such an honor. I talked to one of my friends who's been training as long as I have. He's like, Amo, how you feeling? I said, it's funny, man. I'm ecstatic. I'm excited like a kid in a candy store, but I'm humbled too, And, I put a lot of time into getting here, and you always got to keep yourself in check. Anytime you start getting a little arrogant, the ego is I call the ego the mind killer, in true Bushido, rid yourself of ego. Ego will destroy you.
yeah.
It makes you make bad decisions. It's the great deceiver, ego. So I'm loving life, man. Coming out, meeting you guys, hanging out, taking my team out here, traveling a lot. Eric and I I was on the road. I travel a lot for business, doing a lot of deals that are really cool. The Legacy Fund will only get involved in businesses that are impactful in a positive way. I love certain things that I stay focused on in business with the private equity. Over the last year and a half, I've met some incredible human beings. I mean, next level who, when you're around high level people, high achievers, and I don't say it arrogantly, I'm just talking about people who have achieved tremendous success. It's not just the success. I look at somehow have they remained humble? Because you almost, people talk about balance. I'm like, dude, when you're a serial entrepreneur, there is no balance. There is no balance. You have to make your balance going to the gym, eating right, healthy, be with your friends here and there. But to stay humble when you achieve a little success, to me, really inspires me towards people. And I only do deals with people that I like and fall in love with. And they're doing something to change the world. Like they have an impact. And when I say the world, even if it's a community.
Right.
So
making impacts.
Yeah. Getting back into this game really has inspired me. I took a little sabbatical when I went through my divorce between late 17 to late 19. It was like 3 years. It was a rough divorce, overly litigious, my kid thing going through him emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But to get back in the game at such a high level was truly like the next level of mindset for me. Confidence. 2020, I started getting back in hedge funds. Had a huge exit, biggest I've ever had, and then starting like the private equity fund with that. I talked to Darren one day, and he's just calling people. He's like, "Emma, I got the perfect person for that." I'm like, "Who you calling? You're not calling Neek. What are you, crazy? I got to prepare myself for that." Call him up on the phone. Going to these different. I never went to these mastermind things. The game I was in, you didn't deal with this stuff. Even social media, right? It's institutional. Right. But I started going to these things and I started falling in love with the people. I met Frankie. When I met Frankie, man, he was like, he hung out with me the whole time. Like, we talked, he was texting me every day. Like I would talk to Darren, like, Darren, I love that guy. He's freaking awesome. Like we got to help him. And I get to meet some really, cool people that are inspiring to me. And again, high level could just be, it's not money. Money is, my brother was dying, my father was dying, my sister was dying. We didn't talk about money. Nope. We talk about a relationship.
Nope.
You can't take that with you.
Nope.
You make money, you wind up giving it away, right? Or you screw up the next generations. But money's great to do things, but it's really people who achieve this level of excellence, that seek that perfection. I tell my guys all the time, every once in a while I throw a reverse punch and I hit it and it feels perfect. And I must have thrown 10 million of them in my lifetime at least, right? All the years I've been training. But when I hit that one, it makes all that other 9 million change worth it. Boom. And it's like, I hit it. I felt and I tasted that perfection in life. And very few people seek that or are willing to endure it. So I think hanging out with guys like you who are doing exceptional things in your space and elevating your craft, that really, at this point in my career, is inspiring to me. Like Erica says all the time, you fall in love with these people. I said, you're right, I do. I fall in love with them all the time. Like, she's like, you don't even know them. I said, no, I do know them. Yeah. I know what I need to know.
I understand.
And I know they probably went through the same hell I went through to get to where they're at. And still going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
I love that, brother.
Yeah.
So where could the listeners find you?
Instagram.
What is it?
James_Amo_Amarosi.
Okay.
You can go to thefundlegacy.com. I'm all over social media now. And I still struggle to get on there and do my thing. I know it's so important to get out there, and it's such a, like Brad Lee told me, he's like, Amo, he's talking about like the podcast. He goes, regular television's dead. He goes, this is the new advertising.
It is.
And it hit me like an arrow. I looked at him, I go, Brad, you're right, man. He goes, get on it.
Do you know that CNN during whatever, the major networks, Fox, CNN, during their big newscasters, they're only getting like 250,000 views.
Nothing. What you're doing here.
Yeah, I get sometimes a few million views on things.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And think about the impact, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You get around the right people, and you were saying it before, doing these things over time, it affects you and the universe different. You start changing your frequency. I don't want to get too esoteric.
No,
but that's how
we talk about it.
I feel like energy and frequency is critical.
It's all real.
You meet somebody and we instantly hit it off.
Absolutely, it's magnetic.
It's
you feel it.
It's having that mindset of walking in a room with your eyes down or looking up and saying,
Mm-hmm.
boom, you hit and you connect.
Absolutely.
And that's a new brother or sister.
Absolutely.
You know, and I feel like now that I got to tell you, man, meeting people now is more inspiring to me than ever.
I feel the same way.
You know what I mean? Like just when I think I'm either I did something special or I'm a little down, it has the same effect on me. I meet that person, I'm like, whoa. And I have a few friends now that I've gained over the last few years. You know, older you get, the quicker you get to know people. You can learn people. You've learned. You know, you have a skill set of people, right?
Absolutely.
And you meet the right people. Like I walk out of here now, I'm gonna go train. You know what I mean? Like I want to go train. That's how pumped up I am. You know?
I love that. So, I love it.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, brother, thank you so much for coming out here. Thanks for
I'm proud of you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, man.
And I definitely want to get your number. We got to hook up. We got to stay in touch. I told Frankie every week you got to reach out to me. You know what I mean?
Got it.
You never know, brother. God
never
has
know.
something in store.
Always.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
Always.
You know?
Yes, 100%.
It's an honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for connecting with us on today's episode of the Emotion Podcast, where we discuss all things mental health. Connect every week as we explore incredibly intimate stories of persistence and hope, delve into mental health education, and explore valuable resources. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And visit emotionwellness.com for more information.